Hi, it's David Avrin, and welcome to the Why Customers Leave podcast. We all know that innovation is happening at light speed. New technologies that allow for better and faster ways of connecting with customers and expediting transactions. But one of the biggest challenges that innovators face in bringing new technology to market is that too often new tech doesn't play nice with old tech. Well, my guest today is using AI and low-code to bring new technologies to industry 17 times faster than traditional approaches. I'm talking today with tech entrepreneur and e-commerce pioneer, Jon Nordmark, CEO and co-founder of iterate.AI, about how a new generation of artificial intelligence and technologies will revolutionize customer engagement. It's David Avrin on the Why Customers Leave podcast, back in 20 seconds.
Are you ready to future-proof your business? Well, sit back because customer experience expert David Avrin brings you the Why Customers Leave podcast, featuring outspoken thought leaders and business builders as they share their creative strategies for serving a new generation of customers and clients. Listen in, or you can watch the video version of the conversation. Now, here's David Avrin.
Hi, thanks, and welcome to the Why Customers Leave podcast. I'm really good at the customer experience, the communication part of all of this. It's always sort of eluded me is the technology. It's not that I'm not a Luddite. I'm not that I'm bad with technology, but I'm really good at utilizing the technology without really understanding where it all comes from. Now, understand this is coming from a guy whose father was an actual rocket scientist. I mean, my father invented the first cameras that ever took pictures on the surface of another planet. He worked on the camera systems for Viking, went up in the 70s. He worked on Jupiter missions. Me, I was a cheerleader in college. So clearly it skips a generation. But what I like to do is surround myself with people who really understand the technologies and the methodologies behind the capabilities. And so I'm excited to talk to a friend of mine today. And I've admission, I've known him from way back because our kids were in preschool together. But at the time, he was the CEO of one of the biggest early e-commerce giants, eBags. And so I'll do a quick introduction, and then we'll officially say, I know I'm sort of rambling at the beginning. But Jon Nordmark is the co-founder and CEO of iterate.AI. He was also the co-founder and CEO of eBags for 10 years as CEO from 2001 to 2008. They sold almost $1.75 billion worth of bags and luggage. And it was one of the early days. And what was interesting is part of the background, and maybe he'll tell us about that as well. He's working at Samsonite. He had an idea to do this. They said, no thanks. So he went and did it himself. And ultimately, Samsonite bought him for over $100 billion. So one of those great success stories. But he's taken that success and he's helped other technology startups and others to bring their products to market. And in doing so, has developed some amazing software. We're going to talk about that as well. So a quick welcome to Jon Nordmark. Thanks for being with us on the show.
Thank you, David. And I love the story. I'm a little bit like you, by the way. I don't write the code, but I admire the people that do. And I feel like I'm an interpreter of their stories.
Yeah, but you know what you want to accomplish, and fortunate for all of us is there are some wicked smart people in the world, and the key is they're all over the world, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like we have them in Sri Lanka and India, in Silicon Valley and Colorado. They are all over the world.
So talk to us real quickly, just a little bit about your background and what happened with eBags and what you learned during all of that, and what led you to working with technology startups and sort of creating that software that created that go-between and the problems that you're solving today. Give us a little bit of background.
Well, at eBags, we were known as an early adopter of technology. So we were one of the first online retailers to become profitable. We did it during the dot-bomb, like in 2001. Business Week recognized us, Amazon, Overstock, and Blue Nile as the first four that really made it. And but we did it by experimenting. And it was all due to kind of the combination of the creative thinking that the merchants and marketers brought to the table, as well as the creative thinking from the technologists. But the technologist people, their ability to kind of invent methods that we wanted to experiment with. So one of the things we wrote early on at eBags was a A/B split test platform. And it was a guy named Val Augustino. He was a young engineer, probably 26 years old. He came to my office late one night and he said, I think I know how to save the company, because that's what we were trying to figure out how to do. Like,
Sure.
become profitable. It was either become profitable or die. We either move from being a venture to a business, or we die. And so I asked Val, what is it, that'll make us profitable? And he said, like, you're a marketer, David.
Yeah.
When you send one letter to a customer with one headline, and to a similar customer, you send a different headline, and you measure which one does the best. He said, what if we could do that with our website, like on every page? And I said, we could do that? And he said, I think we could. And so I said, how? And he said, well, if you give me 3 weeks, I think I could write the software. So I said, oh my gosh, go home and don't come back, like, until it's done. I don't remember if he came back to work or not, but he did write the software, and we became an A/B split test machine. So we probably did, I don't know, like 1,000 tests, and we were able to move the conversion rate on our website, the people that come to the website and buy as a percentage, every time, from about 0.7% when we started to, on a monthly basis, 13%, on a daily basis, about 5, 6.
So how do you do that? I mean, I think we're familiar with the concept of A/B testing, right? You send a couple of different ones, measure which one works, devote your resources that direction. How do you do it on a website? Is it that every time they go, they're seeing a different website, or do you have, tell us how you did that.
Let's say you and me are lookalikes. And we know that, when you come in, we're able to measure, like, where you come from. Are you coming through an affiliate site? Are you coming through Google? Are you coming directly? We segment all that traffic out, and then you will get a different, and it's always very contained, scientifically, like, maybe all we're testing is how many pictures you see. And that was one of the tests we did. Is it okay to show 4 pictures, or do you need to do 7? Or, how does a video impact the sales?
Right.
You might get a video and I don't, but it's all controlled like that. And then we're able to measure, and it usually took, it depends on, you got to do it scientifically. So you got to wait for a certain amount of traffic to come in.
Make it statistically valid.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were able to determine way early on, you had to have like 7 pictures, or I think that was the number. You couldn't do it with 4 or 5. And this was important to us because it costs more money to shoot more pictures. We did all the photography in-house. We had a photo machine, basically, a production line of photography with real photographers at bays. And so the fewer photos we shot, the less money it cost us. But we realized to get a high conversion rate, you need 7 photos. And so anyway, that's what we did. And then when a test concluded, if it was significantly positive, we would make the change for everybody. If it was negative, we would just stay with the control.
Now, I would assume today, that's table stakes with the level of analytics that they do. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I think that we were a machine, because it was life, death. Like, if you were a big company, it didn't really matter. Like, the company economics are already set. It's working. Let's say you're a big retailer, it's working. So the employees of a place like that may not have the impetus or the life or death desire to make testing a high speed, priority. Sure. And at eBags, though, we had to, because if we didn't make it work, we all lost our jobs.
Well, you talked about sort of, this was in the .com bust time.
Yeah.
Very few were profitable, because of course the mindset had changed from the goal, the measurement being clicks, to actually being sales that drove profitability. What a concept. But it was such a false premise in the early days that there were very few that really had mastered that connection between sales and profitability.
Yeah. And it was, I remember there were so many metrics, because we could measure so many things. And it sounds so basic today, but we sat down, I can remember many discussions, or what are the 5 things we really need to pay attention to? Gross margin was one, which is obvious, I guess, to most people today. But back then it wasn't. And that's evident by the failure rate of all the, tons of startups that imploded back in those days. But it was stuff like gross margin, not really revenue, but the gross margin we produced. The conversion rate was mission critical. And so everything we did was to try to improve the conversion rate relative to the gross margin, and, and gradually but relatively fast, we were able to get there. And I remember in the beginning, we were selling, for every dollar of revenue we were getting, we were spending like $2.
Right. And as was true with many in the day, but it was that acceptable losses. Early days, Amazon was very much like that as well.
Yeah. And for us, a dollar in revenue was really 30 cents in gross margin. So it would be like, for every $2 we're spending in marketing, we get 30 cents in gross margin. And that's the recipe for implosion.
Right.
And, but within 2 years, we got it down to, we had $13 in revenue for every $1 market, or $2 in marketing spend. And that's how we lived. And that's how we became profitable. But it was like, it was just methodically going after that. And that required many tests. Like, we were a testing machine.
Yeah.
And, and I learned during that, David, too, that it didn't matter where you went to school, how smart you were, you couldn't predict what a consumer was going to do. The only way to do it was through testing. And we used to run tests, like not bets, but we'd all bet, like, who's going to win this test? Is it going to be A or B? And it didn't matter, again, like your background, you couldn't pick. So I always told people, I know this, like, I'm going to give you an opinion, but I know I'm only right half the time.
Right.
So
right. Well, it's the old line with marketing. Like, we know half our dollars are wasted. We just don't know which half. The difference is today they do. So talk to me about your learning coming from that made you, let's be honest, sought after as a mentor for others as well, and how that brought you to tech startups and some of those entities.
Well, I was lucky, and I think I've been lucky many times in my life. And because eBags worked, and we raised money from pretty famous venture capitalists back in the day.
Right.
People looked at my company and me as knowing what we were doing. And I think that's how I became a mentor. I've mentored probably hundreds. That's literally the number, like, of startups and entrepreneurs and all over the world. And but all that is based on is just a lot of experience. And I know this, I'm a way better mentor today than I probably was back when people sought me early on.
Yeah, I think a lot of us look that way. But it also brought you to a place of recognizing what was missing in this ecosystem of entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs. Talk to us about, connect that, because I want to talk about iterate.AI as well. Talk to me about what you were doing, what you realized was a deficiency in the system, and how you set about addressing that.
Well, eBags, again, it was recognized as being one of the early adopters of technologies from other companies a lot. And, we were a retailer, an online retailer, but we used many solutions that were built by other startups that would help improve conversion rates. We were always seeking companies that could find traffic, conversion rates, whatever it was. And so because of that, I became really intrigued by companies that built really interesting technologies. And, one was called Live Clicker. It was just a way to do video on product detail pages. I became very close friends with the founders of that company and always admired what they were doing. Another one was called Endeca by Steve Papa, who sold his company for over $1 billion to Endeca. But it was navigation software. It's like unsexy. No one would know the name, but it was just so intriguing to me. And we were able to, identify that it improved conversion rates. Another one was Omniture, which it went public and Adobe bought it. But it was, anyway, these people at these companies taught me how technology can really improve businesses and make them, turn them from ventures into businesses. And that's why when I was done with eBags, I sought people that could build software. And I got really lucky and found this guy, Brian Sethi and Nathan in the Ukraine, who became ultimately my partner at Iterate. So that's kind of how how I became intrigued with software startups. and moved from retail into software.
So talk to us about the problem you saw, right? The best businesses,
Yeah.
there's no shortage of businesses that are solutions looking for a problem, right? Here's a new capability. Yeah, do we need it? There was a real gap in finding some of these early stage tech companies and connecting them with others who could work synergistically with them or help them grow. Talk to me about that gap and how you sought to close that gap.
Well, Iterate discovered kind of two major gaps, and they happened at two different times. The first one, Brian and I were both board members of a startup accelerator, like a Techstars in Kiev, in Ukraine. And we started working there in 2011. It wasn't full time. We'd go there, 3 times a year, 4 times a year for 4 days. This is where we got to know each other, but it was toward the end of that, in like the beginning of 2013, where I don't remember if it was Brian or me that said it, but or another guy named Igor Shofite who recruited us there. He a good friend. Anyway, Brian and I thought, man, the world of tech startups is the barrier to entry has become brains, not capital. So back when eBag started, it cost millions of dollars to start a company, because a digital startup, because you had to write all the code from scratch. There were no code libraries. You had to buy all your servers. I mean, buy them, at $50,000 each.
There was no cloud, right?
There was no cloud.
It was the back room.
Yeah, it cost a fortune. So a young guy like myself with no savings had to go raise money to build a company like that. Well, when Brian and I were working in Ukraine, we realized that all the people that were building there, the country's poor. I mean, it was poor prior to the war. The people didn't have money to buy servers. They couldn't raise money. Yet these really smart people were building software SaaS products on Amazon's cloud, on AWS, and they had no money.
Right, and they're working out of their homes.
Yeah, they were working out of mom and dad's home, and or a lot of times that's the way it was. That's how they are in a lot of those.
Sure.
Places. But Brian and I, and they were coming from Belarus, Kazakhstan, Moldova, wherever. And Brian and I were like, my gosh, I mean, they're able to produce amazing tech with no money and deploy it anywhere in the world. So that's when we decided we had to build a way for large organizations to find these unique technologies. And we became sort of a tech provider for that. We have a database of 16.2 million companies now, and we can find really unique solutions from all over the world that large organizations can engage with. And then we sort of became a consultancy on top of that, helping big companies find these really unique solutions all over the world. But then the second problem we found, and this was maybe even more important in a sense, was that large organizations, they have IT departments that are, tons of money behind them, but they operate on technologies that have been built 10, 15, 20 years ago, a lot
continually
of
patched.
400s, from IBM or whatever. They've got old Oracle, databases, SAP, and even Salesforce today in a lot of cases would be considered a little bit older technology. But anyway, they're all operating on these massive, complex tech stacks. And if you had something new that you wanted to test, going back to my eBay set, like if you wanted to test something new and be fast at testing, you couldn't do it because you'd have to get in line. In the IT department has priorities that were often set in all their strategy meetings in the fall of the prior year. And if you weren't on that list, you just had to get in line and wait for a year. So Brian, my co-founder, who's a remarkable technologist, he worked in Apple secret products in the early days, which is he has patents on the first iPhone. He worked on a tiny team that built that thing and invented it. Anyway, he said to me, Jon, I think I know how to fix this. What if we build a middleware, a connective tissue really between the legacy stack that exists in enterprise today and the startup ecosystem where all the AI and IoT and emerging technologies are being built? And what if we could connect them without having to even talk to the IT team? And I said, again, like Val, we could do that.
Right.
And he built it. He built it while he was on vacation, the beginning of it. He was at a wedding. for 2 weeks, and he built the beginning of what we call Interplay, which is now 95% of our revenue. And it's a remarkable tool. No, a tool. I can't call it a tool. Platform.
Right. Platform. So is it like a skeleton key? I mean, is the idea that this can work with any system, or is the magic of it? Because there's no shortage of companies that have tried to build interfaces to help you talk to legacy technology. What's unique? And talk to us about LowCode for others who are unindoctrinated.
Yeah. What's unique about it? One piece is the LowCode, and there are other LowCode platforms, like you just said, but they tend to be workflow platforms. They're relatively, I don't want to call them unsophisticated, because they're great at what they do, but we have a far more sophisticated coding capability within our LowCode platform that like we have tons of AI nodes built into it, built by people with PhDs in swarm computing, that does, and you can modify it within the platform. But in any event, one really interesting thing about, LowCode means drag and drop. Right. So our platform consists of 600-ish nodes. So they're little containers, that you can see, visible containers. And if you think of it like a basketball floor or a hockey rink, all these unused code nodes sit in the boxes on the side of the playing field. And what you can do is you can drag the players out. So these nodes, these containers, out onto the playing field. And when you drag them out there, just like in a basketball game or a hockey game, they activate, they start working. And you can bring out their friends and, bring out another node and put it in there. And then you can connect them through lines. And because of that, we're able to develop software by using pre-built containers. Then we can modify them a little bit. But then and because of that, we can move at just an incredible speed. So an example of that, we were working with a $60 billion company that does convenience store fuel type sale. And they needed a way for people to check out of a gas station, to check in basically with their license plate in their car, but to check out using the cameras, to activate the pump using the camera, kind of frictionless checkout within
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we built the whole thing in 3 weeks. A big consultancy thought they could do a prototype, that they were told that the enterprise was told that it would take about a year and over $1 million to build it. And we built the whole thing in 3 weeks for $75,000. And it's now operating in like 4,000 edge locations over in Europe. That's what LowCode does.
Yeah, well, and it's amazing because as I sort of said in the introduction, and as I've reviewed the site and looking at how this applies, as you had said, there's no shortage of brain power around the world, but there are gaps in the system that create delay, that create friction, that create right. And so somebody's got a great new technology, a new capability that organizations can tap into. If they have to stand in line to even test it, if they have challenges of getting the system to talk to each other, there's a big delay in implementation and being a benefit for customers. And we know in this marketplace, every bit of delay, somebody else is jumping in. So you actually help those companies bring those new technologies, capabilities to enterprise, well, as the site says, 17 times faster. That's astonishing.
Yeah, and that's what we see again and again. It's anywhere from 2 to 17 times. The 17 is the fastest we've kind of got documented, but a lot of times it's 2, 3, 4. But still, if you can do it 4 times faster, you can do 4 times as many tests. The scary thing for developers is they feel like it might be 4 times more work, but it's less work. It's kind of like the Chat GPT that's coming out today, where we're actually seeing the same thing. We're now able to create nodes on our website. It used to take 6 to 8 hours per node. Guess what? We're down to like 6 minutes. And if we need one, it's just, everything is becoming more accessible. But on the speed, even with the checkout, like in that store, what you have to be able to do, like at a convenience store, you have to be able to recognize the car within milliseconds, not 3 seconds, 4 seconds.
Right.
You have to be able to turn the pump on in milliseconds using the cameras, basically, to detect in milliseconds, not 3-4 seconds. You have to be able to process the payment also really fast. And in order to do that, we've had to do a lot of really interesting tech work behind the scenes at a kernel level, where we're modifying, code at the ones and zeros operating system level. And so that we can do two things. One, operate on an edge instance, do an AI on an edge instance. That means in the store, not on the Amazon cloud or Google cloud. So that's really unique about our platform. We're one of the only in the world that we think can do that. We're a partner with NVIDIA, because of those capabilities. And then we've got patents on an ability to process data in a parallel way, where you have parallel processing happening, which makes it incredibly fast too. And the people that invented that are the guys out of Apple, the secret product guys.
Yeah.
So it takes some real tech to create these experiences that are okay or not okay, but better for the consumer.
Sure. Well, and ultimately that's the ones who'll benefit. Are you also finding the ability, as they say, you sort of build it once and you sell it 100 times, that every time you do a new unique process that allows a faster, more personalized engagement experience, well, now you've done it. Now you can find a way to apply that to so many industries, because that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing is people, industries learning from others. Yeah. They're able to track that. They're able to give visibility. How does that apply to our industry?
Well, if you look at our website, you're so right, David, because we can build a technology for the banking industry, let's just say, in Asia, and it can apply to retailers in the United States. And an example, and you can see that on our website. I've talked to investors, and we have very few investors, no professional investors outside of a strategic.
A nice position to be in early on.
An amazing position to be in, and because it allows us to be nimble. But I've talked to venture capitalists who've said, we think you're in too many industries. And I'm like, sorry, we're going to keep going into more. I have no interest in talking to you anymore. Like, you're too old school, right. And the thing is, we're a platform that can serve many, many industries. So we're able to do extraction of data out of paper documents and do classification, like on the fly using AI. We're able to find fraud. So for the banking industry over in Asia, in Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, we're building technology to do that. And we built it already. And so that's very interesting to them, because they can process documents a lot faster. They can pull information out of one document, automatically put it into another. It can come out of emails, out of forms, out of PDFs, whatever, and then move the data in where they need it. And
and that capability, I think, to your point, that capability
anywhere
is needed by so many other industries.
Yeah. So who cares? Like, if we have a retail customers, why not show it to them? Like, here's what we did for banking. Would this be helpful to you?
It's interesting when you talk about sort of VCs and sort of the old way of thinking, but the old way of thinking is the idea of specialization, right? You got to have that niche, you got to have that expertise, that you have that sole source. But here's what I like about your approach is there's a different school of thought today, which is we're not specializing in the industries we serve. We're specializing in the services we provide, and we're applying it across a variety of. Your expertise, your specialization is in what you do, not who you do it for. And I think it's an absolutely valid market position.
And that's a great way to say it. And to your point, also the one you made before, we become a creative resource for companies in a variety of industries, because they can ask us, what are you seeing, in automotive? What are you seeing in?
That was my next question. Yeah. So keep going. You have a unique insight. And the limited time we have left, you have unique insight into a variety of industries. So for our viewers and listeners, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and others who are looking for insights to make good strategic decisions, what do you see coming down the pike? What are some of the cool new capabilities, amenities, processes that is important for people to understand from what you're seeing? Pull out the crystal ball.
Well, the thing that's everyone's talking about right now is this OpenAI, ChatGPT, large language models. And that is a huge, huge deal. And we're all over it, because we can do things like build private large language models so for instance, the banks in Asia, every one of them is looking at this right now. We've probably talked to 10 banks over there. But they have no interest of processing data on the cloud. They can't. They have to be secure and private. So what's
Right.
really interesting for us is that we can process all that data on the edge, on their premise, in any environment they want. We just need to train the data, which is becoming a lot more easy to do. All the large language models are morphing and changing so much.
Right.
Anyway, that's one huge trend is that, and it'll impact everything. Like I said earlier, we could, in certain cases where it took us 6 to 8 hours to write code, we can do it in 6 minutes now and edit it. Think of that.
Right. Yeah. Earlier development, earlier testing, faster to market allows those working strategically within organizations to deploy new amenities, capabilities faster.
And then another thing is edge compute. The edge has become really important. So, everyone used to have their own AS400 in their office or the compute was at Samsonite when I worked there in the 1990 or 95, it had all the compute in their office in a cold room. Then data centers came about, and it changed a little bit, but then the cloud came and everyone tried to move to the cloud, or a lot of companies did. Well, now it's moving back, and every little gas station, every little store, every little bank will be able to process, every car processes data, AI data on the edge, or can do that. And so I think a lot of this edge computing will become more and more important. But edge computing in the world of AI, where it can take a product and the product can start having a memory, it can start making decisions for a person, it can start making recommendations, and the data never needs to go to the cloud. So that means it stays private, like on your wrist or in your car. It stays, it's special in that world.
For enterprise, is it going to require, especially for smaller enterprise, is it going to require a new level of skill set to manage and fix the technology? I was talking to somebody who was worked with one of the top 3 fast food chains, and they said part of their challenge was, as they're moving to technology, touchscreens and others, now their 16-year-olds have to be able to handle when the system goes down. They used to have to know how to work the register. Now they need to know how to get the touchscreen back up and running. Is that going to create a whole new level of challenges, or is that still going to be managed offsite?
Yeah, I think it creates some challenges. Certainly, I think that's another trend that you're asking. It's upskilling. It's continuous learning. Like, we're in a world that is changing so fast. Right. It's not going to slow down. Like, to survive and thrive in our new world, your kids and my kids will just have to be continuous learners. Heck, maybe you and me too, but especially our kids.
Well, but here's the thing: is our kids, though, are technology natives. What we're hearing these challenges right now with all these great new technologies coming down is those who are 60, 65 and older, of organizations having to really focus on omni-channel, right? They've got the new technologies. We've got to have an off-ramp to the real person, right? We've got to give the option so they're not screaming, agent, real person, right? Into the phone. And so we are very much in that transition time, aren't we?
And that's what the large language models and all the training them within private data sets, which we're working on now with large organizations, kind of trying to combine the public data with the private data that they'll never want going into the open AI systems, and then turn that into a talking machine. But your point back with the 16-year-old that has to maintain the store. One thing that we've built for one company is what we call a store coach. And you can coach people through those things, I think, through other types of technology. Like, oh, it's not working. You put it into the store coach. The store coach we built does stuff like, does inventory. It'll watch inventory through the cameras, in the store. So it could count hot dogs, cups.
Wow.
It can look for spills. It can count the number of people going into the bathroom. And then it just alerts the store person, if there's only one there, oh, we've had 10 people go in the restroom, you should check it, to make sure it's clean now.
Is
But
that
if
going to
no-
go on our social profile? Our public took this much time in the restroom at Arby's, because I don't want that out. Nobody
No, I don't
needs
think
to
that's-
know that level of social currency. And
Yeah,
we've
doesn't
seen.
do the timer, but it'll do the the number of ins and outs.
There you go.
But anyway, that's a helpful tool for the store associate where it can train them kind of on the fly to do certain things. And so I think there'll be a lot of opportunities for, to help keep people, to upskill people and help walk them through certain processes.
Yeah, this is fascinating. We're gonna check in on a regular basis because things are changing so fast. And for anybody who goes to the website, you can see the names of some of the very big companies and organizations that they work with, the ones who look to you to help them bridge that gap and create those faster adoptions and technology integrations. Real quickly, if people want to get in touch with you, once again, talking to Jon Nordmark from iterate.AI, how do people learn more about you and the organization and get in touch with you?
Yeah, an easy way is just on LinkedIn. I look at that regularly, but it's Jon, Jon, at iterate.ai. Just email me too. Thank you.
Outstanding. This is so cool. It's like I said, we're gonna touch base later on and keep everybody up to date on the latest changes. I will remind everybody, hang on, by the way, we'll talk on the other side.
Okay.
You can pick up a copy of my new book, which is here somewhere. There it is. It's called The Morning Huddle, Why Powerful Customer Experience Conversations to Wake You Up and Shake You Up and Win More Business. In fact, all of my books are available on Amazon, most of them in audiobook as well. Be sure to click to like this podcast, subscribe, and click the little bell. You'll get notification of new episodes, and be sure to leave a comment below. And once again, click the little bell icon as well. You can learn more about my keynote speaking and consulting at davidavrin.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Why Customers Leave podcast. Remember to leave a comment, and a big thanks to my guest, Jon Nordmark. I'm David Avrin. Be good.
This has been the Why Customers Leave podcast with David Avrin. Be sure to leave a comment and click the like button. You can listen to or watch past episodes and be notified of future ones by hitting the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform, or check them out on David Avrin's YouTube channel. David's popular books are all available online and also in Kindle and audiobook form as well. You can learn more about David's keynote speaking and business consulting at davidavrin.com.